Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Collaborating Docs YouTube channel. I'm Amanda Guarniere, a nurse practitioner and the director of growth here at Collaborating Docs. And I'm very excited to be joined by nurse practitioner Alice Benjamin, who is here to talk to us all things media. This may not be a topic that you have explored before as a way to get patients into your practice. And we are going to have a nice conversation of how you, as a healthcare provider and a private practice owner, can leverage different speaking opportunities and visibility to be a trusted expert and also hopefully generate some business for your practice. So,
Mhm.
Alice, welcome. So happy to meet with you here. And please introduce yourself and then we'll dive right in.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Amanda, for having me. I'm Alice Benjamin. I'm a family nurse practitioner working in the emergency room and also doing family practice as well. I've been in nursing a total of, oh my gosh, 20, 24, 25 years now. Gosh, time flies when you're having fun. And I love taking care of patients. And, I've had this very unique experience in nursing and in healthcare. Obviously, as healthcare providers, I was always told we want to put ourselves out of business. We want to educate and empower our patients so they do better, right? I know we're this is a business, but ultimately we want everyone to make better health choices so they can have happy and healthier lives. And as a nurse throughout my career, I had the chance to do that, and it's landed me in a very unique space of media. One first as educating the public, but then I've also learned that there's a way to harness that, if you will, one to elevate the profession, but then also as a provider, especially if you have a practice or products or services, how you can use that platform also to educate to the masses and grow your business. And had a chance to do that as NBC medical correspondent and also now owner and founder of AskNurseAlice.com, which is a health consumer education platform, but the MediaRx.
I think that your kind of journey in the space that you occupy is so fascinating. And before we kind of get into some tips for those who may be watching to put these things into practice, I'd love to know, I'm not sure I know the story. You and I have known each other for a bit, but kind of your origin story in media, was this something that you intentionally sought out? Was it something that fell into your lap? Like, I'd love to hear that first opportunity that kind of led to the rest of your media legacy.
Yeah, I get that question a lot, like from people's like, well, how did you get to do what you're doing? I want to do that. It's funny that you asked that because I never in a million years would have thought I would have been in media at all. I had no idea. We never saw this modeled anywhere, Amanda, for nurses or nurse practitioners
That's fair.
at all. And so, um, what happened was, long story short, the reason why I went to nursing is my dad died in emergency room. From sudden cardiac arrest. He was not on the monitor, wasn't being monitored properly, which is kind of why I wanted to go into nursing because I wanted to improve healthcare, change the culture in busy ER rooms. And no shade to ER rooms. I've worked in an ER room, but I understand how busy and overwhelming it can be and lack of resources. But I wanted to help change that culture to make sure we're being very diligent, but also help to educate the public because my dad, who was retired military, had access to healthcare insurance, but just really didn't understand all his patient appointments. And my mom was from the Philippines, so English was her second language. So she had barriers understanding. And so I set out to say, I'm gonna help improve it for patients and for providers. And so I started volunteering for the American Heart Association. I was very passionate. I was at every fair, every speaking event, every whatever there was. I wanted to be there because I wanted to tell people about their blood pressure and what this meant. And one day at a healthcare fair, someone from PR from the American Heart Association kind of watched me and said, "Hey, Alice, you're really able to get people to come to the station, get their blood pressures taken, say it in a way that they understand, they're comfortable with. Would you mind, uh, coming on KLH radio and representing American Heart Association to talk about how to be heart healthy for the holidays?" So, obviously me, I go back, I review all the literature and come with like stacks of notes and statistics and all of these things. And I go to the radio station for like a 5-minute interview. Like I was way over prepared, but I had to realize I'm like, you know what? This is although I'm a healthcare provider, but in the radio space, it was more what they call infotainment, information, entertaining. But you know what I learned was this is a very engaging environment because people are tuning in because they want to, not because they have to. They're not stuck in this hospital bed. They're not prisoner to an appointment. They're tuning in because they want to electively. So I found my niche with, having fun and sharing the knowledge that I know as when I started as a nurse, and that one thing led to another. They invited me back to come to talk about uh, how to identify strokes, signs and symptoms of a stroke. And then the radio station asked me to come back for other health things. American Heart sent me out to do other things, and I started doing radio. And then I started blogging. This is when blogging just started. I'm dating myself. And then I found myself on the web, and then people started finding me, and then my name in the media world kind of just started being shared, like, oh, I know a nurse, she specialized in cardiovascular health and this. And next thing I know, boop, here I am. I'll never forget, because one day I get a call from an email from Dr. Oz's team. It's like, hey, we'd like to invite you, Nurse Alice, to come on our show. I'm like, golly, where'd you find me? He's like, well, we've been watching you on the internet. So you never know who's watching, which
Wow.
why media is so important. You reach the masses. And I have tons of stories of, there you go. Look, you have tons of
Is
stories.
that they're calling you right now, Alice?
Right, that's the news station. But there's tons of stories of when I've, even when I've done travel nursing and gone different places, and people are like, "Hey, I recognize your voice. You sound like Nurse Alice," and I'm like, not. I look at different people, all shapes, all colors, all sizes, all identities, and they're tuning in, they're listening.
That's
So it really
amazing.
makes me feel good, and it's kind of continuation of what we do as healthcare providers.
Absolutely. I think that is so inspiring. We could have a whole conversation about, how to make that a core part of
Hmm.
your persona. Maybe that'll be one for a different day. But what I'd love to do is kind of get into some tactical tips. We talk a lot about how to start your own practice as an NP or a PA. And with that, we talk about how to find patients, how to get visibility, marketing, right? And so I'd love for us to dive in how someone can use media opportunities to build their private practice. And I first want to, can you frame when we say media, what are we
Mhm.
referring to? Are we talking about someone going on a radio show? Like, can you give us a bit of a landscape of what those opportunities look like? And then hopefully we can dive into where someone might start to find those opportunities that may have the biggest return on their effort.
That's a great question. And I'm glad you asked that because, there's social media, then we think of television and all these things. And really media is kind of an umbrella term for mass communication. So it's a modality in which you can communicate to the masses, whereas usually we're just, one patient, one family at a time. Now, you can communicate to multiple people, millions, if you will. So it does include some of the more traditional television, radio, um, magazines, newspapers, right? Those some people are like newspaper. What is that, Alice? Right?
Mhm.
But now you think of the digital landscape, online, digital, social media, all of those things. And so I often tell people every single opportunity that you have for an interview or for an article, I mean, consider that as a potential opportunity to communicate and if you will, advertise to the masses. And I know as healthcare providers, we're just like, "Ugh, advertise. We think of business, advertise, marketing dollars. But Amanda, I tell you, we've underestimated and underutilized the media so much to position ourselves as a content expert. For example, let's say you have your local um, radio show, your local news station, being interviewed or commenting on a health topic. From maybe you're talking about colon cancer awareness and colonoscopies, right? Maybe you work in GI. It's an excellent opportunity to educate just generally about the topic. But listen, when they introduce you, it's like, hi, we have Alice Benjamin, family nurse practitioner. She's also the author of ABC book, and she has a clinic in such and such downtown. Please welcome to the show, Alice. And then we get into the topic, and you provide a service, you educate, you let everyone who's listening look at how wonderful of a provider you are, how informative you are, how nurturing and, you dotting every I, crossing every T, and delivering a wonderful, informative interview, they're going to run to your office. They're going to want that type of provider because we know there are horror stories out there and some people don't like their providers and they don't feel like they're, pay attention to detail. Now, when you can display yourself in that arena, giving of your time, you're providing a community service, community benefit, and you're putting it on notice because when you do that television interview, you're going to get a copy of it. Now it's, family nurse practitioner Alice Benjamin as seen on NBC, ABC, and that adds credibility. I mean, listen, we're licensed healthcare providers. We are well capable of doing our jobs, but there's something about media and kind of just the glaze and the star about, oh my gosh, they were on TV. There's something about that cachet that just adds a little oomph to your profile. And really, I mean, you couldn't pay for that commercial because that type of commercial would be so expensive. So this is your way to get that airtime with no cost, little to no cost. I mean, maybe your hair and makeup and, get a new fresh lab coat or something, and your gas to the station, but literally you don't have to pay for that type of a press. And so I think it's extremely underutilized. But
Yeah.
television to articles, even if someone interviews, you take that article, you take snippets of it, you share it, you use it to pitch to other media, radio stations. I mean, I tell you, one piece of content can go like miles and service millions of people.
Something that you touched on that I think it's good to call out, you mentioned some people don't like their providers. You get to be there. You are, people can kind of see you in advance. Like that's actually a wonderful way for people to self-identify. Oh, I trust this person, to see you in action, maybe not in a patient care action, but just see your face, hear from you. And for them to get kind of a vibe, okay, is this someone who I want to see? So it's, not just an opportunity to like list your business or get an advertising byline, if you will, but it's also a way for there to be kind of a one-way introduction, so that they know who you are. And I think that's a way to warm up that relationship, especially if the ultimate goal is to be, finding potential
Right.
patients.
Right. The trust between provider and patient is so important. So imagine being able to display some of your work or how you perhaps talk to patients or the level of detail you go into. I mean, people are going to see that and they're going to like, wow, I really want to see that provider. So they're going to come in already with a level of trust. Now we've all,
Mhm.
I've seen a provider for the first time and it's kind of like a little bit of apprehensive, kind of, you might not be as forthcoming with every single thing right away because you still have to develop a trust. You have to develop a relationship. But now you've already seen your provider, and probably if you've seen them on TV, they've probably Googled you, they've looked at your website, they may have now they're looking at social media, they're looking at all of those, as well as, your any type of reviews online. And so, using media, whether it's television, radio, articles, online, podcasts, those type of things, it really builds up your profile. So patients are already impressed when they're coming through the door. They're excited to see you. They feel like they know you already,
Mhm.
Amanda.
Yeah. So let's do a little case study, to kind of give some examples of how someone could start on this journey. So I'll use myself as an example because I do have a small private practice on the side. It's local in my community. It's part-time. I offer weight loss with GLP-1s. I offer facial aesthetics. I offer hormone replacement therapy. So I know in my area there's a town newspaper. There's a state magazine, but then there's also like a regional magazine that everybody gets. Um, there are some radio stations. There's pretty sure there's news TV. I don't watch news TV personally, so I'm not as familiar with the stations. Um, so what are some like first steps? I know that these media outlets exist. I would love to
Mhm.
be featured and have this opportunity. Am I looking for people who are looking for experts? Am I approaching them and pitching myself? Take me
Oh,
through kind of some first steps for someone.
okay. So Amanda, you are already a licensed healthcare provider. So you're well credentialed, you have the education. There's no doubt about that. You're already providing patient care. Now, you are such a wealth of knowledge. Just imagine a news station. I'll tell you, every morning there are meetings and they're clamoring about, okay, what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to talk? And sometimes it's today, or what are we going to talk about for the week or the month, right? And so, health is very much an important topic, and especially with all the recent weight loss injectables and all the information that's coming about symptoms and side effects and what should I do and all this stuff. And we just had Thanksgiving, right? Lots of people wrote about what is Thanksgiving going to be like now, right? How to have a weight loss injectable Thanksgiving, right?
Mhm.
How not to overdo it. And so there's so many ideas and so many topics. So if you as a provider just think, what are some of the most common issues that come into your clinic, into your practice? I bet with that information, you probably have tons of stories that you like, you know what, we should talk about this. I'm seeing a lot of this. And actually, that's what news stations want to know because they want to be of service. They want information to be informative, and they're not providers. They're not doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners. They might be health inclined, right? We have health allies, but they are not the actual providers. So with you as a provider, because you're practicing, because you understand the literature, if there's any new studies out regarding new medications or something comes down from the CDC or FDA about a change in the medication or a warning that comes up, who better else to talk about it? Now, you can't wait for the journalist or the news station or the writer to reach out to you. We must not be reactive. We need to be proactive. And I always say that because, and there's also a lot of misinformation that's out there. So the way to combat that is to flood the media market, if you will, with accurate information by licensed healthcare providers, not
Mhm.
just, we've seen these people, they're a yoga instructor, and then they're talking about neuroscience and things that are going on in the brain. And because they're talking, they're being of service, people are tuning in. People are tuning in, they're listening to them. They're like, oh my gosh, did you see so-and-so's TikTok? And they said this and that because they're there. And we as healthcare providers, we're not there. We're not there as much. Some of us are doing really great, but some of us are really camera shy, right? Or we don't know where to start. So as a provider, identify those kind of themes of what you feel is important. If you subscribe to a journal of some sort and you have like, oh, there's a new study, a new medication on the market, or there's a new warning, you can contact your local media station, radio, or maybe it's the magazine. And also I'll say this, you can start with local, but also think big. Think big, think GMA if you want to go there, right?
Mhm.
And offer yourself and say, you know what? Um, I'm Amanda, and I'm a nurse practitioner, and I'd like to talk about this new study that came out in JAMA that says X, Y, and Z. It's really beneficial because this is what we're seeing in healthcare, and maybe give them 3 or 5 bullet points of what the important pieces are and how it will be helpful to their viewers. Now, that's another thing. You got to keep in mind who the audience is for that viewership. So just like we customize our care and education based on the patient's demographics or what's going on with them. Same thing with media. Although you know a lot about weight loss injectables, and when you go on, while you must give some general information, if it is a woman's outlet, focus on those things that are really specific to women, those idiosyncrasies, right? Maybe it's an automotive, and this is interesting. So maybe it's an automotive outlet where there's typically men, and I'm generalizing. You have to look at their media kit to see who their audience members are. But maybe it's like 90% men between the ages of 30 and 50 who read this automotive magazine. And hey, there's still people, they still need information. I know this is a cars outlet, but how can I take my GLP-1s and relate it to automotive things, right? Maybe there's an analogy you can put on that, and then offer some education that way. So I think that there's a little bit of art to it as well, but you identify what you want to talk about. You reach out to those outlets, give them 3 to 5 bullet points of what it is you want to talk about in the story, any statistics to complement, and offer your availability to come and be available. And listen, when you can give them kind of the recipe and everything, all they have to do is just add water, meaning AKA bring Amanda in the studio, AKA just Zoom Amanda for the interview. They're going to love it because you've made their job so much easier because they are not health experts. They can't really decipher the science as well as we can. So I know I made it sound really easy. And dare I say, it actually It is kind of easy, Amanda. It is. It's just we're not used to it. That's all. We've just not been
Yeah.
trained to do that or used to doing that. But once you get it, boy, it's just like it's like a fish swimming in water.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so amazing. And I think, a good way to be efficient about this, because someone who's
Hmm.
watching might be a single provider without staff yet, right? A new practice or a small practice. You can send the same, because what Alice just described is a pitch, right? It's here's what I'm an expert in. Here's what's going to bring value to your audience. Here's my availability. That's a pitch. You can send a very similar pitch to
Hmm.
multiple different outlets. So you can send it to different radio stations. You can send it to, radio, TV, news, you can be efficient in how you're doing things. And you can appear in multiple outlets talking about the same topic. And if anything, that just kind of underscores your expertise. Oh, wow. She was here all talking about the same thing. She must really, really know her stuff. And I think that's kind of a nice way to, it is kind of the process is kind of easy when you think about what it entails. And should we expect to hear back from
Hmm.
every pitch? Is there some sort of kind of volume play here when we're starting the strategy?
Well, I think it's very important to never take it personal. So I think because you imagine there's so many things going on in the news cycle, and it's not that they perhaps didn't love your health pitch. They probably do want it, but maybe there's a car chase, something going down, or something that like we just had an election. So you have to understand the news cycle can be very finicky and can pivot really quickly. Several times I've been teed up, ready to go for television, and they're like, Alice, we're going to have to reschedule this because the mayor's doing a press conference. And I get bumped for, obviously, it's a mayor, right? And unfortunately, health, sometimes, unless health is the crisis, like during the pandemic, that was all, Amanda, I did television like 3 to 4 times a day, every day, during the pandemic. And my employer was very supportive of it because obviously we offered COVID testing and vaccines and things like that. And it was a perfect backdrop. And it was
Mm.
also perfect promotion for them in the testing sites. So many people came in. But I want to say, you were talking about the sole provider. I know. So it sounds easy, but I'm going to tell you what's hard, finding the time. That's
Mm.
what it is. Because you got work life, you got family life, and you just want to sleep sometimes. You just do,
Mm.
right? So I always tell people start with one piece of content and like there's a strategies, work smarter, not harder. That's my motto. Maybe you do an interview or you write an article, it gets published somewhere. Then you take that article that you publish, and that's part of your pitch. So when they're interviewing, they say, Amanda, we read your article in Shape magazine where you were talking about yada yada yada, and it just kind of adds cachet to it all, and
Mm.
it amplifies that piece of content. Which, by the way, when we're doing this for a service, right? We want the community benefit. We also do want to raise our visibility to our business and our practice and our services, right? That's fair, because generally this is not a paid opportunity. It's kind of you give me a patient education, we'll give you some press, and that's kind of the exchange there. But then also when you do well and the viewers tune in, they read your article, they're playing your videos, and they're sharing and things like that, those outlets take notice. They're going to want you back because
Yeah.
the outlets want you back because then they can get advertisers on their shows because they're getting high views, high readings, the audience is there. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone. But yeah, for that loan provider, there's a way to strategize it because I want you to be able to sleep after work and spending time with your family as well. Um, and once you do it, it actually becomes it's fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a little scary at first if you're not, because being on interview and the mic is always hot. So let me just throw that out there as a piece of advice. Whenever you interview with someone, be tasteful with what you say. Remember, journalists, while they're there, we're going to get the story out. They're not, in a very nice way, they're not your friend. They're there for the story. So if you say something that might be, a little salacious and can really be a clickbait, be careful because they may go down that road. But if you have your own practice, and when you have your own practice, you have a little more flexibility to say what it is you want and do all your interviews. When you're working for a large organization or a hospital, things like that, it's a little tougher. So I just also want to be mindful that media, when you're in the media, it's generally a good thing, but you just have to be careful of the things that you say or how you say them sometimes because a small little 15-second soundbite can go viral.
Mm,
Now, we want this to go viral in a good way. So, and that's where media training comes in. So you can optimize those types of opportunities.
yeah. Gosh, I feel like we could talk for a very long time. There's a lot that can be done. There's a lot to learn. I think and hope, and if you're watching, please let us know in the comments below the video. I think this is a great starting point. I think we've got some action steps that any provider could walk away with to at least dip their toe in the water of this initiative. Alice, I know that you train on this and you offer more services. So please give us your pitch of how we could learn more from you, especially in this area of media.
So I'm the founder of MediaRx. We are a multi-production company. We do media training, coaching, PR. Also, we can also help with production if you're going to go down that route. But basically, in the niche of healthcare, because we understand there's a fine line and a tightrope that we walk. We want to optimize media. We want to elevate your voice, help inform and empower the people that you serve. And so we walk you through that. If you visit themediarx.com, I actually have some free resources. A MediaRx interview guide gives you the basics of how to prepare for that interview. You can download that for free. I also have periodic webinars and opportunities that are also free. So go to the website and sign up and visit those. And then I also have some other tiered services. I do provide the MediaRx Academy, which is a 10-week training program for healthcare providers from beginning to end. Everything that you would want or need to know about how to be in the media, how to use media as a strategy for marketing and PR for your business, and then for those who possibly want to make a career of this, whether it's on camera as a writer, perhaps you want to be a consultant for a television show in healthcare, which I've done for Fox's TV The Resident and some other things. But we take you through the full program, and it includes everything from protecting your intellectual property to trademarking to shining in front of the camera and delivering that best interview and using that material to market to your patients.
Amazing. I will include all of those links down below so that you can learn more from Alice, go to the website, get some of her free resources. Alice, thank you. You are a wealth of information. It's always a pleasure. And thank you for sharing this mini masterclass with our viewers today.
Thank you so much. I hope it's helped, and thanks for having me.